So we find that God has made an offer to Moses to eliminate all of the rest of Israel and just start all over with him. And we look at verse 11 here. Moses responds to God's offer. We're in chapter 32 of Exodus. Then Moses entreated the Lord his God and said, O Lord, why doth thine anger burn against thy people whom thou hast brought out from the land of Egypt with great power and with a mighty hand? Why should the Egyptians speak, saying, with evil intent he brought them out to kill them in the mountains and to destroy them from the face of the earth? Turn from thy burning anger and change thy mind about doing harm to thy people. Remember Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, thy servants, to whom thou didst swear by thyself, and didst say to them, I will multiply your descendants as the stars of heaven, and all this land which I have spoken I will give to your descendants, and they shall inherit it forever. So Moses begins to entreat for the people. You might think this is a good deal. God, just wipe them out, just start with me. Then I don't have to lead all these people. I don't have to worry about feeding all these people. I don't have to listen to all their complaints and deal with it. But no, Moses intercedes for them, because Moses is a picture of the great intercessor that we're going to see come in the New Testament, the one who still intercedes for us before the Father in heaven, in Jesus. But Moses is this incredible picture of the one now that comes for God himself and speaks to God on behalf of the people. And so he's contending, says, and remember it for your own covenant, the covenant you made, your own namesake, basically. You made this covenant, Lord, and if you don't bring them through, people say, oh, God just brought them out to kill them. But here it says, no, you promised that you would give them this land that they would inherit, that the descendants would be like the stars of heaven. They'd be a multitude that you can't just look out and count. Oh, there's 26 of them. No, it'd be a multitude. And so he's saying, remember, Lord, for your promise's sake, not to destroy them. And so we see this great intercession on the part of Moses. And we see this same kind of intercession displayed in the New Testament in a place too. And we'll look at it again, because this isn't the only time that Moses intercedes for the people. It's a rebellious people. He kind of needs to keep on coming back to them again and again. Well, it says in verse 19, Moses finally gets a view of what's going on. He hasn't seen it yet. He's only heard from God that there's rebellion. In verse 19 of chapter 32, it says, and it came about as soon as Moses came near the camp that he saw the calf and the dancing. Okay. Before, I don't know, the dancing, the Hebrews danced a lot, but this wasn't dancing in celebration of the Lord. This was dancing in front of a golden calf that they were now worshiping. And Moses' anger burned, and he threw the tablets from his hands and shattered them at the foot of the mountain. And of course, comically in Sunday school class, said, well, who's the first person to break the law? Well, it was Moses. He threw the tablets down and broke the law, the tablets of the law. But here, Moses' anger is stirred up against the people, and he throws down these tablets. And then we go, Moses confronts Aaron. And he says, what? Moses said in verse 21 to Aaron, what did this people do to you, that you have brought such a great sin upon them? And Aaron said, do not let the anger of the Lord burn. You know the people yourself, that they are prone to evil. So Aaron's just blaming them. They're prone to, you know these people. For they said to me, make a god for us, and it'll go before us. For this Moses, the man who brought us up from the land of Egypt, we do not know what has become of him. And then here's the classic. This is absolutely classic. Verse 24, and Aaron says, and I said to them, whoever has any gold, let them tear it off. So they gave it to me. I threw it into the fire, and out came this calf. Before it just said he fashioned the calf with a tool and all this kind of stuff. But when it comes to when he's under pressure, when you're in the principal's office and you're under pressure, and your first response is, man, I can't sound bad because I'm really going to get in trouble. You try and justify yourself, and you're just digging a bigger hole. This is such a common thing. What happened in the Garden of Eden? God came to Adam. Adam blamed Eve. Eve blamed the serpent. You kind of deflect it off. Well, here, Aaron says, I put it in the fire, and out came this calf. Look at this. I couldn't help that. So verse 25. Now when Moses saw that the people were out of control, for Aaron had let them get out of control, to be a derision among their enemies. Then Moses stood in the gate of the camp and said, "Whoever is for the Lord, come to me." And all the sons of Levi gathered together to him. Okay, it's kind of this call like, who's on the Lord's side? And Levi, the sons of Levi come, the Levites become the priest among the nation. Now God's intent in Exodus 19:6, I believe it is, was that the whole nation of them would be a priesthood, a royal nation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation. That all of Israel would be a holy nation, a royal priesthood. Well, now we're seeing it's getting narrowed down. Now it looks like it's just the Levites are gathered together. They're for the Lord, and they're taking a stand. And so we get down, and God is, really, there's instruction to go and slay these people that have been involved in this horrific sin. And in verse 31 of chapter 32 says, "And Moses returned to the Lord and said, Alas, this people has committed a great sin. They have made a god of gold for themselves." And then he goes into this time of intercession, incredible time of intercession. He says, "But now, if thou wilt, forgive their sin. And if not, please blot me out from thy book which thou hast written." Now, who would want to do that? I mean, God is just saying, you're the guy I'm all behind, but I'll blot the rest of them out. Now he's saying, Moses is interceding, says, if you don't blot, if he says, don't blot them out of the book, but if, you're not going to forgive them, blot me out of your book and forgive them. What an incredible, because Paul said the same thing. He said he wished himself to be accursed in chapter 9 of Romans for the sake of his Israelites, according to his kinsmen, according to the flesh. I wish that I could be accursed so they could be saved. Wow. Talk about intersection. Talk about a picture of Jesus giving himself, taking sin upon himself, the sinless one, taking sin upon himself, becoming sin on our behalf, becoming the one who's accursed on our behalf. Here, we see that same thing in Moses, and we see the same thing that later on in Paul. It says, verse 33, "And the Lord said to Moses, Whoever has sinned against me, I will blot him out of my book. Go now, lead the people where I told you. Behold, my angel shall go before you. Nevertheless, in the day when I punish, I will punish them for their sin." Then the Lord smote the people because of what they had did with the calf which Aaron had made. So here we see a revelation of the heart of God through Moses. It's actually God's heart, because it's a heart desiring mercy, and God does have mercy, but there will be punishment for sin. I mean, he revealed himself. He's going to reveal himself here coming up in this next chapter in that same kind of way, explaining his nature, that he is against sin. He does have mercy. He will have mercy, but there has to be a recognition of the sin. There has to be a taking accountability for that sin. And when it does happen, then God is willing to be merciful, as he'll reveal himself as we go along here. And so what we see is that Moses goes through this traumatic time. He's broken the Ten Commandment tablets, and then we get to later on in chapter 33, verse 16. It says, "For how then can it be known that I have found favor in thy sight, I and thy people? Is it not by thy going with us, so that we and I and thy people may be distinguished from all the other people who are upon the face of the earth?" So Moses is beginning to make a plea here. He says, Lord, you need to show yourself that you haven't abandoned your people, you haven't abandoned me. How are they going to know? How's there's going to be a distinction between us and any other people unless you go with us? And the Lord said to Moses in verse 17, "I will also do this thing of which you have spoken, for you have found favor in my sight, and I have known you by name." Then Moses said, "I pray thee, show me thy glory." And the Lord said, I'll make all of my goodness pass before you, and will proclaim the name of the Lord before you, and I will be gracious to whom I will be gracious, and I will show compassion on whom I will show compassion. Now this is a real key passage that's really important for all the rest of the scripture, and the Lord is going to reveal himself to Moses as he's in some ways the way he revealed himself in the person of Jesus in the New Testament.